Welcome back to Co's Q. I'm honored to be here today and got a wonderful treat for not only you to see me cook, but also my family here in the next 24 hours when it's done. We're going to be doing a brisket. Come to find out, it's actually National Brisket, whatever it's called, day is. It was in the last few days. We missed it by a few days, but that doesn't matter. I mean, it's Memorial Day weekend, and that's why we're doing it. And oh, sorry about that. Actually got a chance to watch Top Gun Maverick tonight with the family, and go see it. It's worth it, I promise. Very good, very, very good show. And this is what we're going to be doing. Just shy of 4 pounds. Manager special. For some reason, I have no clue why these get marked down because the cuts are perfect. I think people get a little bit scared because they see a little more fat than they're used to, and the point on our brisket always is going to have obviously more fat than the flat. But I think people walk by that just because they're unaware of what it takes to cook that cut of meat with that type of fat content. And all of us that do this type of cooking know that fat is flavor, and but too much fat also doesn't render properly. So it's a balance depending on what cut of meat you're using, but you're trying to cook. So. But yeah, this is what we're going to be doing, and I'm going to get it seasoned up here shortly and show what we do with that. So come along. Thanks. All right, so we have it unpackaged, and we have it placed here on the pan with the aluminum foil. Makes it really, really easy for cleanup. I got the seasonings I'm going to be using as far as the rubs and the binder agent. Obviously, everybody likes to use mustard. I could go either way. Sometimes I just use water. I mean, you use whatever you prefer, but the bottom line is we get it trimmed up and then put whatever you like on it. But today we're going for a really dark, savory bark. Pepper bark is what I like to call it, because it's going to be almost jet black charcoal in color if it's done properly. And that fresh ground pepper is going to really, really, really show itself when you go to taste it, once it's done. So. And you see, this portion isn't just the point. There is a portion of the flat connected to it because it's only a portion of the whole brisket that's been cut. And I like this because I've only got one son, and it's just me and my wife. A small family here in the house, so we're not cooking for a whole bunch of people, and I'm not having a bunch of people over. So these cuts I get at Food Line are perfect for. But it takes almost just as long as it would a normal size cut, and unless you want to go hot and fast with it. But I take my time with it, and it turns out usually pretty well. So. Now, normally I don't start off with this. I'm going to be using the real pungent black garlic. I'm going to put it on first. That way I can really see the application of it. Because once I go to the last step, which is that fresh ground pepper, I mean, everything is going to be coated in a real shiny black layer, which is how I want my bark. Really tasty bark. And this is just some SPG I put together: garlic, salt, onion powder, fresh ground, kosher salt, and I think it was a little bit of Old Bay, as a matter of fact. A little bit of a mixed blend of Old Bay. That's a big cut of meat. Well, it's not, a brisket's a big cut of meat, but you can be really liberal with the amount you put on, because it's going to take it. All right, then we're going to move to the fresh ground pepper. This is where it's going to get pretty heavy. I'm wanting that to be an extra super thick coating. And you see that right there? A lot of people will forget to get that. All right. This is actually going to sit in the refrigerator overnight because I'm doing a really early start time cooking. I don't want to get up early and have to do this prep work. It's not going to hurt it. Perfectly fine to sit overnight. It'll help some of the seasonings set into the first couple layers of the skin. The salt probably will go the majority through it, which is perfectly fine. So I will see you first thing in the morning. Good morning. Here we are. Today is the day to get this thing started. Been looking forward to cooking brisket. It's not been very long since I've done one, but I just love cooking it. I've already got this pre-set up as of yesterday, so all I have to do is go down here and light this. There you go. Pop open all the vents, well, at least this side vent on the Oklahoma Joe's, that is. And I've already got wood strategically placed at one big block of hickory, and there's little smaller chunks that are all over the place, some of which you can't see because it blends in with the Kingsford charcoal. That is the oak barrel, whiskey barrel aged little cubes, but there's a bunch of them in there. Now, you'd be overwhelmed if you use too many, but this is a long cook, and I've only got one big chunk of hickory, so it's going to smoke good for probably the first couple hours, then it'll just be barrel heat from that point on with the flavor of the charcoal. So it won't be overwhelming at all. It should be pretty delicious. I can't wait to taste it. Alrighty, so now we've got the grill cleaned up, ready to have the brisket placed on. I'm gonna grab it real quick. Smoke's starting to roll. I'm just gonna lay it just like that, fat side down. It's roughly about 8:30 right now. I'm gonna keep it tip. Somewhere below 250 consistently, probably closer to 220. A little bit longer cook even for a smaller. That way it can really render that fat in a point and not overcook the flat, which will get done just a little bit quicker. Then we're gonna wrap it at roughly about 155 to 165, close to the stall. Get it up to about 198-ish to 203, depending on the tenderness, and we'll be checking that with a thermopro pan. All right, we got the brisket portion off, and we're going to be checking the temp. $155, $156 at that portion. Over here, it should be probably pretty close to the same. Yep, $153. And if anything, I got a ton of butcher paper. If anything, this butcher paper just helps protect the table a little bit. But that looks more than enough. Solid to put back on there. Yeah, it's gonna go back on there probably for, let's see, it's about 12 o'clock now. We put it on at 8:30. It's already at the stall in some portions of the brisket. We're gonna slow down the portions that we're already still trying to break through the stall, close to the heat source, flip it on its head, and then we'll get it off somewhere between that 198 and 203. Check the tenderness with the probe only. You notice I'm not using any heat source probing, heat probes, because currently don't have any. I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to use, which ones I want to purchase at the moment. I'm trying the best bang for my buck, as we all should do. But yeah, this is all I'm going to use. Throw it on right now. Let's see what we got here. I think we're pretty close. Temperature got up in a little bit above 250, 275, which is fine. No big deal. A little hot spot. Alrighty, so let's try over here. Oh yeah, it's like butter. 197, 198. 201 to 206 right there now. Might be a fat spot boiling. Yep. It's time to go in the cooler, folks. There it is. See how it shrinks up just a little bit because the way the fat's rendered. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Got these gloves on, which is perfect. Got them on line. Feel a little bit of the heat going through there, but nothing to stinging, so that's perfectly what you're looking for, because that thing is hot. It's between 195 in some spots to 210 in some of the other spots. It's a little bit more exposed, and there's nothing wrong with that because the point can get pretty warm in certain locations on it, which is not a problem whatsoever. So we're just going to wrap this up, and I'm going to put that downward to seal off those corners a little bit from the towel. And she's good to go for whenever we're ready to get back in there and cut her up. So we'll give it 2 to 4 hours and see how it looks. Alrighty, folks. You're not going to believe this. We took it off at 2 o'clock roughly. It started at 8:30. Well, then we put it into the cooler roughly about 2 p.m. So what has it been on at that point? What, 6 hours? 5.5 hours? Now it is 6 p.m. and it's still piping hot. Anywhere from between probably, I would say, 140 to 160 degrees when I took it out. It sat and rested a little bit since further to me to get the cutting board and the knife in place. But here we are. Let's get this off. Look at that. Goodness, all that. And that is the bark I was looking for. Look at that. That jet black with a little bit of sheen is by far what I was looking for. This is by far going to be the toughest portion of the meat because that's the flat. You heat it up just a little bit quicker because of its thickness and the location of it on the brisket. But that is perfect. Look at all that. Oh, look at the moisture, guys. I know it's hard to see that. I'm not sure how that's going to come out in the video, but I'm not one of those guys that squeezes the meat because I like to keep that in there for the bite. Oh, but that's going to be beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. It's going to taste beautiful. And as we get closer, you start to see as we get closer to the point, that's what starts to take place. There's a separation between the two types of meat on the brisket. Oh, this is wonderful. Look at that. I did a combination of hickory wood and whiskey barrels. So I'm going to separate this because I want to get a little bit of burn ends there. You see how that separated real easy? Oh, that cuts like butter, guys. Separate that once you get to the true point. Regardless of how big your brisket is, if you have a majority of a point, you're in a portion of the flat, separate it, and then you get to that fatty point. That's where your burn ends come from. Oh, these are going to be beautiful. Oh, yeah, look at that. That's the fat separating. That's going to be good for a sandwich right there. That meat right there. That's almost like pulled beef. That's probably the point they got to. One of the probes I got, it was at almost 211 degrees, and I believe this is it. That's why it's almost shreddable. But the rest of everything turned out immaculate. All right, let me get one of these burn ends. Taste test. That's a wonderful flavor profile. Sorry, I'm almost drooling because, wow. This isn't a huge brisket, obviously. This is a 4 to 5 pound brisket. It renders down. You can get briskets that are 8 to 20 plus pounds, and you have to trim them up. My smoker can't handle that. It's not big enough to handle a cut of meat much bigger probably than 10 to 11 pounds effectively. So I do these portions, and they turn out great for the size family that we have. So you don't have to buy this big brisket. And if you do, then cut it up and then freeze it. And then you can do it whenever you want to, different portions of the brisket, and it'll turn out wonderful. Don't be afraid to do that. Did that not look absolutely delicious? Well, guess what it was? Did a little spin at the end on the brisket that we didn't plan on doing. I knew I was cutting up burn ends, but we cut them up a little bit more to where they would fit on top of a wheat thin with some cream cheese and some jalapeno pepper jelly. Absolutely delicious. And I did a little KC masterpiece with a little red wine vinegar. He brought to a simmer and then drizzled on them. That's that little sauce that you've seen on top. Give it a try. It's really, really good. The ingredients are literally that simple. Wheat thin, pepper jelly, any type of pepper jelly, just to give it some kick. This specifically was jalapeno, the cream cheese, and this little sauce on top. And you really don't have to do the sauce because if you've done a pretty good job with the brisket, it's probably going to have enough flavor, but I like a little drizzle on mine. But turned out wonderful. You don't have to cook a huge brisket. That was a little bit of the moral of the video today, was that, yeah, you can buy the pack of briskets and trim them up yourself, and it actually will fit better on the Oklahoma Joe's because it's only about a 19-inch cooking space on there. Some of the bigger briskets have a tough time. I don't like filling up the whole top. I don't think it gets a proper smoke and cook all the way through the way I like it in too many hot spots in this situation. So the smaller the brisket, I think you can manage it a little bit more, and you feed more than just your family. There's more than enough on a 4-pound brisket, even after it renders down. So give it a shot. Give it a try on Oklahoma Joe's. You can do it on the kettle. It's all timed out. It's a wonderful cut of meat, and I suggest you try it. Coach Q, out.